Over the years, a secluded estate nestled atop a hill in Los Angeles concealed secrets that few ever imagined. In 2018, when Cesar Millan, known worldwide as the Dog Whisperer, moved into this residence, his life took an unexpected and dramatic turn. Authorities soon initiated an exhaustive investigation, meticulously examining training manuals, private recordings, and financial documents from the estate over a span of more than 3 years. Finally, in 2021, the results of the investigation were revealed, and what was discovered stunned even his most loyal followers. From controversial training practices that sparked heated debates to severe economic problems that nearly caused him to lose everything, the revelations unraveled the true story of what transpired within Cesar Millan'S vast empire. Cesar was born on August 27, 1969, in Culiacan, Mexico, and his early life was marked by extreme poverty, living with his family on a ranch without access to potable water or electricity. Even as a child, he exhibited an extraordinary connection with animals, a trait that did not go unnoticed by his grandfather, who affectionately dubbed him El Perrero. By the time he was 13, he already dreamed of becoming the world's greatest canine trainer, a goal that, despite ridicule from his peers, would eventually transform him into a household name in millions of homes around the globe. Growing up in the Mexican countryside shaped his unique view of animals. For while many modern trainers study animal behavior at universities, Cesar learned by observing how the ranch dogs interacted, establishing natural hierarchies and asserting leadership with calm determination. These early observations became the cornerstone of his personal philosophy, a philosophy that was later lauded by many and rigorously questioned by others. In December 1990, at barely 21 years old, he made a radical decision. With only $100 in his pocket, he crossed the border into the United States illegally. Despite not speaking English and facing an extremely perilous journey, he later revealed that he paid a coyote for safe passage and nearly lost his life by almost drowning upon reaching San Diego. He spent his first nights in the United States sleeping under bridges and worked washing cars in affluent neighborhoods just to survive. Yet, he never lost sight of his singular goal, to work with dogs. During his initial months in America, his remarkable ability to handle even the most difficult dogs did not go unnoticed. While working at a dog grooming salon, clients marveled that even the most problematic animals seemed to relax in his presence. His reputation grew rapidly, and soon people from all corners of the city sought him out to help tame their unruly pets. His breakthrough came when he opened the Dog Psychology Center in South Los Angeles. Despite its location in a challenging area, the center became famous for rehabilitating dogs that other trainers had already given up on. The facility was nothing more than a modest, unadorned plot of land where Cesar worked with dogs both on leash and in groups, yet the results he achieved were undeniable. Hollywood celebrities began to entrust him with their problematic pets, and one of his early famous clients was the actress Yada Pinkett Smith, who was so impressed with his methods that she paid for him to take English classes and helped him professionalize his business on one strict condition. He did not make significant progress within a year. He would revert to being a mere dog walker. This crucial backing opened doors, and thanks to her assistance, he met television producers who recognized great potential in his unique story. In 2004, National Geographic took a chance on the young Mexican immigrant with his unconventional method by launching the program Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan without great expectations. However, it quickly became the channel's most popular show, broadcast in more than 80 countries with a simple premise. Millan visited households with challenging canine behavior and achieved near-instant transformations using his famed calm, assertive energy. The public was captivated, and his meteoric success elevated him to international stardom, spawning an entire empire that included books, a magazine, pet products, and even his own line of dog food. At the peak of his career, his company, Caesar's Way, Inc., was valued at more than $25 million, and his iconic phrase, "I rehabilitate dogs, I train people," became a part of popular culture. For an immigrant who once slept on the streets, it seemed he had truly achieved the American dream in its highest form. However, as his popularity soared, so did the voices of criticism. Numerous animal behavior experts and veterinary associations began voicing serious concerns about the techniques Cesar applied. These methods included physical touches with his fingers, choke collars, and other strategies that many modern trainers now deemed outdated or even harmful. The American Society of Veterinary Behavior Specialists even issued a statement categorically rejecting the dominance theory that underpinned Millan'S philosophy. One of the most controversial moments occurred in 2006 during an episode showing Cesar restraining a dog named Shadow with a choke collar until the animal lost consciousness. The images triggered a massive public backlash. Many viewers filed formal complaints with National Geographic, while animal rights groups condemned the scene as abuse. Although the channel defended Millan, the incident marked the beginning of a much more intense scrutiny of his methods. Documents later found in his former residence revealed that what happened with Shadow was even more severe than what was aired on television. In unedited footage, the dog remained unconscious for nearly 30 seconds, and some team members expressed deep concern over the technique used, though their objections were ultimately ignored. In response to the uproar, National Geographic added a warning to subsequent episodes, advising viewers not to attempt replicating those techniques on their own. By 2010, as public criticism mounted, Cesar's personal life began to crumble. At the same time that scrutiny was intensifying over his training methods, his beloved pit bull Daddy, who had been a constant presence on his show and a key helper in rehabilitating aggressive dogs, tragically passed away at the age of 16 due to cancer. For Cesar, Daddy was not merely a pet, but a mentor, and his loss was utterly devastating. Shortly thereafter, his wife of 16 years, Lucian, filed for divorce and sought custody of their 2 children along with spousal support. Personal diaries discovered on Cesar's estate later revealed the profound impact these losses had on him. One entry read, "When Daddy died, part of me died with him. He was not just a dog. He was my mentor, my friend, my guide." These writings also disclosed that in the final weeks of Daddy's life, Cesar would sleep on the floor beside him, refusing to be separated even for a few minutes. The cumulative effect of these personal tragedies plunged Millan into a deep depression. In May 2010, overwhelmed by his sorrow, he attempted to end his life by ingesting pills, an act he would later describe publicly as the most emotionally devastating moment of his existence. Paramedics were the ones who managed to save him that day. Subsequent medical records detailed that Cesar had ingested a dangerous mixture of anxiolytics and sleeping pills in what was deemed a serious suicide attempt rather than a mere cry for help. When emergency services arrived, his blood pressure was critically low and his breathing was nearly imperceptible. He spent 3 days in intensive care before being transferred to a specialized psychiatric facility for treatment. The financial toll of his divorce was also immense. According to judicial documents, Lucian received a one-time payment of $400,000, in addition to a monthly pension of $23,000 plus another $10,000 per month designated for the care of their children, as well as several properties that had been part of the family's real estate portfolio. Around the same time, the viewership of his show, Dog Whisperer, began to decline as new programs featuring less controversial trainers started gaining popularity. In 2012, National Geographic Channel announced that the 9th season of Dog Whisperer would be its last, although Millan later continued with other shows such as SAR 911 and Cesar Millan'S Dog Nation, none of which reached the same heights as his original series. The empire he had built with so much effort started to show signs of wear. Several of his companies began to face serious difficulties staying afloat. By 2015, Millan found himself once again at the center of controversy when, during an episode of Cesar 911, a dog attacked and injured a pig during a training session. The incident triggered an investigation by the Animal Control Department and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office. Although criminal charges were eventually dropped, the damage to his public image was significant, and petitions to cancel his program circulated widely. Unedited material related to this episode later emerged from his archives, revealing that the situation was even more severe than shown on television. The dog, a mixed-breed French bulldog named Simon with a history of attacking small animals, had been taken to Millan's ranch for rehabilitation. During the session, Simon was deliberately exposed to several unprotected pigs, and when he attacked, the team was slow to intervene. The pig sustained an ear injury that required immediate veterinary care. According to county investigations, animal cruelty charges were considered that could have even resulted in jail time. Millan's legal team argued that the incident was an accident during a legitimate training session, and although the charges were eventually dropped, the ensuing legal process and crisis management cost his company more than $200,000 as documented in financial records. Despite these setbacks, Cesar Millan demonstrated a remarkable ability to reinvent himself. Determined not to let the controversies define his career, he expanded his brand internationally, particularly in Asia where his methods encountered less resistance. He opened a new training center on a 45-acre ranch in California, offering programs not only for dogs, but also for their owners. It was during this period that he rediscovered love with Yahir Dar, and in 2016, they officially announced their engagement. However, when investigators later analyzed his financial situation following his relocation in 2018, they discovered that his empire had lost much of its former strength. Official documents revealed that several of his companies had begun restructuring due to debts far exceeding their available assets. Caesar's Way Inc., which had once thrived, was significantly scaled down, and many product lines were discontinued because of dismal sales. Bankruptcy records from various subsidiaries painted a worrying picture. Cesar Millan Pet Products reported liabilities of $4.02 million against assets of only $890,000, while another company, Cesar's Way Publishing, suffered 3 consecutive years of losses exceeding $1.07 million. His international conferences and licensing deals became his only relatively stable source of income. Perhaps most revealing were internal emails and memos detailing how the company planned to respond to the barrage of criticisms. Plans were uncovered to hire scientific consultants to publicly defend the dominance theory, despite overwhelming scientific evidence disproving it. Additionally, there were documented public relations campaigns aimed at countering negative press and cleaning up his image. One particularly compromising document suggested selectively editing television training sessions to remove any sequences that might provoke controversy. Communication between Millan and producers made it clear that their goal was to minimize the exposure of any physical corrections on screen. In one email, a producer wrote, "We need to cut the most aggressive corrections and focus on the before and after without showing too much of the process." Another message detailed how to use specific camera angles to hide any signs of violence in certain techniques. These editorial decisions raised serious questions about the authenticity of the programs. The former collaborators provided testimonies that contrasted sharply with Millan's public image. Some claimed the sessions were far more physically intense than viewers ever saw, while others described a work environment where questioning his methods could lead to immediate dismissal. These accounts paint a picture of a man who, driven by success, became increasingly unreceptive to alternative training approaches. The investigation also uncovered multiple extrajudicial settlements with dog owners who claimed that their pets had suffered injuries during sessions led by trainers certified by Millan. The total sum of these settlements exceeded $1.05 million since 2007. suggesting that the complaints were far from unfounded. Legal documents mentioned 12 separate agreements with compensations ranging between $50,000 and $415,000 per case. The most alarming settlement involved a German Shepherd that suffered 3 fractured ribs during a public demonstration, while another case involved a Cocker Spaniel that developed severe anxiety and required long-term medication after a session at the Doc Psychology Center in Santa Clarita. All these agreements included strict confidentiality clauses that prevented the owners from publicly disclosing what had occurred. However, the most devastating blow to Millan's reputation came from personal training videos discovered in his former residence. Unlike the carefully edited television episodes, these recordings displayed the full extent of his interventions with aggressive dogs. Animal behavior experts who reviewed the footage noted that, in many instances, the dogs showed clear signs of fear rather than the calm they supposedly achieved on television. Several clips revealed that animals appearing relaxed on air actually exhibited high levels of anxiety. One particularly disturbing scene depicted Millan forcefully gripping a dog's neck until the animal collapsed, all while explaining to those present that the dog was surrendering and that there was no sign of pain. Veterinarians who analyzed that video detected multiple signs of distress in the animal, including dilated pupils, excessive panting, and body language characteristic of extreme stress, all of which were conspicuously omitted from the final edited version. Internal documents further revealed that the financial viability of the Doc Psychology Centers depended largely on their international operations. As criticisms mounted in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada, the company opted to concentrate on countries with more lenient animal welfare regulations. Financial reports showed that by 2017, over 70% of the company's revenue came from Asia, especially China, where the dominance-based approach faced fewer objections. The same documents indicated that the main center in Santa Clarita was operating at significant losses, offset only by income from television programs and personal appearances. Furthermore, enrollment numbers plummeted while other training centers based on positive reinforcement began to gain ground. In addition, several licensed establishments that used Millan's name and techniques either shut down or rebranded in order to distance themselves from the controversy. Despite everything, Cesar Millan retains a devoted group of followers who continue to support his career. Many pet owners insist that thanks to his methods, they were able to save their dogs from being euthanized when all other options had been exhausted. His defenders emphasize his commitment to animal rescue organizations and the work of his foundation, which is dedicated to promoting animal welfare in underprivileged communities. To them, critics failed to understand the full context of his techniques or the evolution his methods have undergone over time. In response to the avalanche of revelations, Millan issued an official statement acknowledging that some of his early methods no longer formed part of his current practice. He stressed that his approach had evolved to prioritize exercise, balance discipline, and affection over physical corrections. "My methods have evolved as I have learned more about canine psychology," he declared, adding, "I have always aimed to save dogs' lives and keep families united within the community of trainers and animal behavior specialists." Opinions on his legacy remain divided. Some credit him with sparking widespread public interest in the importance of exercise, boundaries, and the energy transmitted to pets, while others argue that his promotion of the dominance theory delayed scientific understanding of canine behavior and diverted attention from more humane methods. Nonetheless, most experts agree on one point. The controversy surrounding Cesar Millan served as a catalyst for the dog training industry to place greater emphasis on evidence-based methods and positive reinforcement. Today, newer television programs advocate an approach centered on the emotional and cognitive understanding of dogs, gradually displacing the dominance model that Millan popularized for more than a decade. Cesar Millan continues to work with dogs, albeit now from a much more discreet public profile. The empire he once built, valued at over $25 million at its peak, has significantly diminished in size. Doc Whisperer remains relevant only through reruns and digital content, serving as a testimony to the zenith he once reached and the controversies that irreversibly marked his career. For many within the animal welfare movement, the investigations into his methods and business practices represented a turning point that changed how canine training is presented to the public, with greater emphasis on ethics and transparency. Modern trainers now stress the importance of respecting each dog's individuality, their emotions, and specific needs, leaving behind any attempt to impose authority through force. The rise and fall of Cesar Millan'S serves as a cautionary tale about the power of fame and influence. The very man who revolutionized the way millions of people understood their dogs is now a polarizing figure within the very world that helped shape his legacy. His story is complex, a blend of genuine love for animals, undeniable charisma, and methods that failed to evolve alongside scientific advances. The files uncovered from his residence, now made public, chronicle how a self-taught man built an empire based on both his innate talent and a carefully constructed public image. An old collaborator once summarized it well. Cesar truly believed he was helping dogs, but the tragedy was his failure to realize that he needed to change his methods when the evidence became impossible to ignore. What transpired within Cesar Millan'S mansion not only unveiled astonishing secrets, but also ignited an essential debate about how we treat the animals we trust. His story, filled with both light and shadow, reminds us that even those who seem to have all the answers face profound personal struggles. What do you think about what was discovered? Do you believe Cesar deserves a second chance, or has his legacy been tarnished permanently? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you are interested in real, impactful, and nuanced stories, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you do not miss any of our upcoming videos. Thank you for staying with us until the end. We will see you very soon with more stories that deserve to be told.